Hello and welcome to the third 4FanSports podcast. I am joined once again by the staff writers of 4FanSports, Mr. Tyler Hobbs,
Howdy doody.
Mr. Ryan Potter,
What's up, guys?
and of course Mr. Nick Rapier.
How's everyone doing this evening?
We are just fine. You know who's not fine though? The Los Angeles Lakers. Now, Hobbs, you are a Lakers fan. This much is true, but what is going on in Los Angeles? Why can they not succeed this season?
Well, I was kind of hoping to go last so I could tell all you guys to shut up. But basically, they're not good. Kobe dropped 42 last night and they lost to the Cavs. Dwight Howard had 20 and 20 or something. They still lost. So it's not time to jump on the freak out mode yet, but it is a cause for concern, I guess. But let's wait and see whenever we get all four of the superstars together to see what they can do before we freak out too much.
What about, go ahead, Potter.
They hired Mike D'Antoni after having problems with their offense under Mike Brown, and then they get Mike D'Antoni, and now they're having problems with their defense. It seems like they can't get anything right. They're having way too many. Yeah, I mean, you think about it. They have all the stars in place, Powell and Dwight Howard, Kobe. They just can't get it done. There's no logical reason why they can't win games.
Yeah, I mean, like Hobbs said, though, it's too early to really tell what they're really going to be like when Stevie comes back. I mean, he's going to contribute, you say, significantly, especially under D'Antoni, who's had him, we all know, for a while before.
And Kobe has a huge respect for D'Antoni. They met through the Olympics and way back when Kobe was a young chap. I read an article where Kobe really respected him and loved him. So hopefully Kobe, dare I say, will listen to D'Antoni and let him run the offense through Steve Nash. And also, D'Antoni needs to, one of the main focuses, he needs to utilize Pau Gasol better. Granted, Pau Gasol got hurt recently, but before he was averaging like 10 and 6 or something stupid. Nothing an all-star should. So they need to utilize Pau more. Get Kobe to score more in the flow of the offense, you know what I mean? And that'll be a lot. Kobe needs to become more of an efficient player rather than shooting 20 to 30 times a game.
Well,
But he's always shot 20 or 30 times a game, and they've won before. Kobe jacks up a lot of shots. That's part of his game.
Yes, but that's what D'Antoni needs to get him to stray away from. He goes in and he just calls for the ball and he just clears out and Kobe just backs the guy down and fades away over the guy. What they need to do is have Steve Nash run the offense and let Kobe work through the flow of the offense. He's a great player. I think we all can agree Kobe's amazing. But they have Dwight now, and they have Steve Nash, and they have Pau Gasol. And Kobe, if you utilize all four of their key assets, it will free Kobe up more. And he can get his 30 points that we all know he's capable of, but without shooting 20 or 30 times a game.
well, I mean, right now, according to Sports Nation on ESPN.com, they asked the question, would the Lakers have a winning record if they hired Phil Jackson? And 76% of the answers returned were yes. You got to think, Phil Jackson wanted the job. Phil Jackson and them were working on a contract, and they went and they hired D'Antoni instead. Are they kicking themselves at this point? Do you think if they brought Phil Jackson back, it would be a different sort of situation in LA right now?
Great.
So there's no way that they can bring Phil Jackson back this season. D'Antoni's contract is way too expensive for them to be able to just cut ties with him after just a few games. They're looking at about $85 million in luxury tax penalties next season with the roster that they have now. So they really can't afford to be making rash decisions like having 3 coaches in one season. And I don't think Phil Jackson would take the job anyway after what happened to him whenever they hired D'Antoni.
That's a great point, Potter. And also, don't get me wrong, I love the Zen Master. He brought the Lakers 5 championship rings. But also, Dwight Howard didn't really want Phil Jackson. I don't think it's widely publicized, but I think it's kind of silently known that he wanted D'Antoni. And that kind of signifies the impact that Dwight Howard has on the Lakers now. That he can come right in and change what would have been a Phil Jackson-led Lakers to now D'Antoni, because that's who Steve Nash and Dwight Howard both wanted.
I think a lot of it has to do, D'Antoni is definitely getting a lot of the heat about it, but most of the part, Kobe's out there. He got his 46 points, but there's not a lot of help from anybody on the team. I mean, Dwight Howard's out there, but he's not Dwight Howard.
Whoa.
Yeah, he's still Dwight Howard.
20 and 20 last night. Kobe dropped 42 and 5. Where's everyone else?
Dwight Howard averaged 12 rebounds and 18 points a game.
Yes, Dwight Howard is very much still Dwight Howard. He's going to be an all-star this year. Let's not jump to conclusions. The problem is, Dwight Howard is going to be uncontainable whenever Pau Gasol's on the other block.
You want to know what I think about the whole Dwight Howard's going to be an all-star this year? Dwight Howard is not even the best center in the city of Los Angeles at this point.
That's a bluff.
That's not true.
If you say Blake Griffin, I'll come to Florida and smack your...
The problem is they need to get Joseph D the ball a little bit more, because Meeks can hit the threes. We all know that. Just he needs a few more shots. That'll be the scoring deficit right there.
Well, they're not having problems scoring right now. They're having problems playing defense. They're giving up way too many points. They're ranked 19th in points allowed. They're allowing 98.8 points a game right now.
Yes, that's what I'm worried about. Defense, because we brought in 4-time Defensive Player of the Year Dwight Howard, and Kobe Bryant isn't known for his defense, but he is 10-time All-Defensive Team player.
Their defense is what's bothering them, and you bring in, Defensive Player of the Year Dwight Howard, and you have Kobe, who was put on whenever they play, whoever they play, he guards their superstar. Don't get it, twisted. Kobe was a defensive star on previous Laker teams. There's just a lot of questions that need to be answered, and nobody really knows why they're falling apart. But they lost to the Cavs.
Right.
That's a bad loss, John.
But do you want me to say something quite questionable from a Kobe fan?
Go ahead.
The difference between Kobe Bryant and LeBron James is LeBron James prides himself on locking a defender down. He goes into every game saying this guy ain't scoring his ass. And Kobe
Do you
Bryant,
mean locking an offensive player down?
yes.
You said defender.
Yeah, whatever Potter said. Locking his matchup down and bringing him below his average. Kobe just wants to outscore his opponent, and there's the difference. If Kobe's opponent goes for 35, Kobe wants 40.
All right, so all of this talk about the Lakers has brought this idea to my mind, and we're definitely going to talk about it. It's a little hard to judge based on where the NBA season and the NFL season are right now. But of the 3 teams I'm about to list off, I want you all to talk about who has been the biggest disappointment this year. The Lakers, the Eagles, or the Red Sox?
Ooh. The Eagles are injury prone. They lost their quarterback. They lost LaShawn McCoy. So I'm not going to say the Eagles. The Lakers are 22 games in. So I'm not going to say the Lakers. So I guess I'm going with the Bo Sox. And it's their own damn fault that they traded away their entire roster.
Well, they were just bad this season. They had all the players to make a run. They just didn't do it. Seems like that clubhouse never really recovered from Terry Francona getting fired.
Bobby Valentine's a moron.
They really didn't take well to him. I think by the end of the season, they were almost losing games on purpose just to make sure that Bobby Valentine got fired.
Nick?
Yeah, man, I'm going to have to hop on the Bo Sox train as well. Apparently they just never really liked playing with him. They should have, or eating chicken in the bullpen the entire season. Maybe they'd have a better record.
Yeah, I have to agree with you guys. Basically, the Red Sox, I think, are the most disappointing. I think it's a little easier for us to say that at the end of the season. I think it would be interesting to go at the end of the NBA and the NFL season and see just how far they fall. I will say this. The Eagles, so-called dream team, have been a nightmare this season. I wrote an article about it back at the beginning of the season when they played the Cowboys, and it's just they've let a lot of people down this season. The Lakers, of course, are letting a lot of people down too, but I have to go with the Red Sox as well.
But let's not hide up. The Lakers are going to make the playoffs, and in the playoffs anything goes. But speaking of the Red Sox, fellow Yankee fans, what do you guys think of us signing on Kevin Youkilis?
I think it doesn't really matter at all, and I was pretty upset when I found out they were paying him $12 million next season. He hit .235 last year. We overpaid for a player that's past his prime.
We need
somebody
somebody
should probably have been retired.
We need somebody to cover for A-Rod.
But he hit 235 last year. He's not going to cover for A-Rod. He could play third base. He's a decent defensive third baseman, but he's not going to make up for that bat. We needed to go out and sign a bat, and we didn't do it.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of it either, man. I mean, honestly, I'm not a big fan of players changing sides of rivalries, but I guess, if he was good enough, I could get over it. But Les Potter said he's not that great, and we paid him too much. That's unfortunate as well. So
that's more on the lines of what I was talking about. Like, not so much of how good of a player is, what do you think of him switching from Bo Sox to Yankees?
Well, I mean, it works for Johnny Damon and Babe Ruth.
Yeah, it doesn't matter to me. Baseball's a business nowadays. People don't have the loyalty to the teams that they used to.
Yeah, Roger Clemens, too. Anyways, back to you, Wilson.
Talking about players joining up on other teams, Hobbs, you wrote an article called Sports Gone Mainstream, and it's basically talking about super teams and how players are leaving and joining up. And, the three of us, you, me, and Potter, are all fans of super teams. I'm a Heat fan, you're a Lakers fan, and Potter is a Knicks fan. Nick, since you aren't really a fan of the NBA, give me your perspective on this. How do you think it's helping or hurting the sport?
Well, at this point, I wouldn't say it's completely killing it right now because other teams are at least able to be somewhat competitive at times. Today, come playoffs, it's trending towards the super teams being there at the end. But at least at this point, you can at least be competitive on a night-to-night basis for the majority of the teams. There's, of course, the bottom few that aren't on most nights. But it's just, I don't like that it's trending that way so much. Eventually I'm wondering if it's just going to be a few teams at the very, very top, and then the very majority of the other teams are not able to be competitive on a night-to-night basis. And that's what I'm kind of scared of, it going that way, you know what I'm saying?
I don't think it makes much of a difference. I know that it creates a lot of hype and it sells tickets, but statistically speaking, 5 NBA caliber players, which, even you got a couple above average guys and then 1 star, are going to be able to compete with these teams. You don't see the Heat blowing every team out, and if that really mattered as much as people seem to think it does, I know it gives ESPN something to talk about, but it doesn't really make a difference when you look at it statistically.
Something that I didn't get exactly to talk about in the article, because I could have talked days about this topic. It's really taking over sports, but it is helping the sport in a sense that the ratings of the NBA are higher than they've been since Jordan was in the league. But the fact that it's ruining the competitive nature, not so much the monetary side of the aspect, that the NBA is run by money. Every decision they make is through money. And so all these players are taking extreme pay cuts. Ray Allen took, I think, $8 million less than what the Celtics offered him to go to the Heat to play with Wade, Bosh, and LeBron. It's about money, but then the NBA, the players are taking less. So it's all comes full circle, I guess.
Well, the NBA, you can't get, like, if a team wanted to get 10 superstars on a team, so that way they just make a wholesale substitution, they couldn't do that because of the salary cap anyway.
Right. But they could if they all took a pay cut. Rashard Lewis, Ray Allen, Shane Battier, they all took major pay cuts. Granted, they're not superstars. Ray Allen is somewhat. We've had this argument, one of the 2 best 3-point shooters of all time. And Shane Battier is a good defender, and Rashard Lewis is a good shooter, and he's long, and he can play. So there's 6. All of them have made an all-star game, I believe. Maybe not Battier. Facts are optional, but...
Those guys are role players, though, really. I'm talking about, like, say if the Heat wanted to go out and sign Kevin Durant, they couldn't do it. Because Kevin Durant's not going to take a pay cut.
Facts are never optional, Hobbs, but... I'm not saying one team's going to do it. My fear is that 5 or 6 teams will take the vast majority of the talent, and the tops consistently kick everybody else's patootie.
Like the main underlying message from the article was that all these players are flocking to the mainstream cities: New York, Miami, L.A., so on and so forth. Granted, Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook are in Oklahoma City, but
live in Oklahoma City.
Drafted there.
Who wants to go play in Milwaukee, though? I'd much rather play on the coast or in a big city where the meat is going to be.
Nobody wants to play in Toronto, the Jazz. I mean, no superstar is ever going to go there, so they have to fill their roster full of role players that would be the 6th, 7th, 8th best player on the Heat, the Lakers, so on and so forth.
I'm about to make a connection that will blow everyone's mind. You want to talk about these big name cities drawing in 3 or 4 really, really good players and more players flocking to the same team. You know what this sounds a lot like to me? Conference realignment. You bring in all of these big name colleges, you bring in all of these powerhouses in their sports to one conference, and they're trying to build the biggest, baddest conference at the same time. And I think it's so much of a trend in sports that people don't want to go off and do their own thing anymore. They want to try to compete with everyone else in a way of, well, my team's going to be bigger and badder than your team. So they don't all individually have their own team anymore, just like the conference don't have one main team, 2 or 3 good schools, and then your poop schools at the bottom. And you want to talk about the salary cap, Potter. What happens when this trend eventually makes its way to baseball?
Baseball doesn't have a salary cap, but they do have a luxury tax, which most teams just laugh at. But that's not going to happen in baseball. Even the Yankees are trying to, make an attempt at austerity. They're trying to get their payroll under $189 million before 2014. So I don't think that's ever going to happen in baseball, just because payrolls are always going to stay. I mean, they're going to adjust for inflation a little bit, but they're always going to stay around about what they're at right now.
You know, another thing, you look at the Eagles, who brought in all this talent and claimed to be the dream team and everything like that, and then they don't do anything with it. So it's definitely a model that you have to look after and figure it out. You can't just do it and hope it works.
Right, but like in football, it's different because, like, say part of the dream team was Nnamdi Asomugha. One cornerback can't change the game like bringing in a LeBron James team. Like in basketball, one player can affect your team so much because, I mean, it's a 5-player sport. But football is 11 on 11, and one of the 11 isn't going to account for much of a difference as much as a LeBron or a Kobe or Dwight Howard would.
Well, I think that it will. It's definitely something that's here to stay. We've seen it. It really started off with the Celtics kind of sort of doing it, and then the Heat, of course, upping the level, and now the Lakers doing it, and I think we'll continue to see it with the Knicks also doing it, and the Nets are going to try to make a play for somebody to come play with Darren Williams. So I think super teams, at least in basketball, are here to stay. Like you said, I don't see football maybe doing it, and like Potter said, baseball is trying to stay pure. But basketball is definitely stayed. I don't know if it really hurts the sport, but I don't think it also necessarily helps. We just talked about Philly and how it was a bust this season. You want to talk about other busts? You got to look at the Jets and quarterback Mark Sanchez. He comes out of USC. He's supposed to be the next Joe Namath and Broadway Joe for the Jets, and he really hasn't done anything, along with his backup, Tim Tebow, who really hasn't done anything. There's all kinds of cases where we have these great college athletes make it to the pros, and they're going to be the next great thing, and they're not. So,
in defense of Mark Sanchez, real quick, he didn't play that badly. His rookie season, he threw 12 touchdowns and had 20 interceptions, but in 2010 and in 2011, he actually played pretty well. I mean, he had 26 touchdowns, 18 interceptions in 2011, 17 touchdowns and 13 interceptions in 2010. You can't really call that a bust. He was a passable NFL quarterback, above average even, until this season.
Tony Romo has yet to perform like I was hoping he would. To be honest, everybody was talking Super Bowl for them again this year, and unfortunately they've been below average at best, Hobbs. I'm just looking at you right now. What's wrong with them?
I mean, they're the Cowboys. They do what the Cowboys do. They give me the slightest bit of hope, and then they yank it away like a bunch of bastards. But I guess we're all going to go with different sports here. I'm going to go with Kwame Brown with my bust. And, I mean, you could take your pick with the NBA. There's a lot of guys that prematurely went to the NBA, and a lot of people put a lot of stock into them because they were fresh out of high school and dominating a bunch of 6'5" white guys whenever Kwame Brown's 6'11", huge and whatever. But, I mean, that's one of the many busts Michael Jordan drafted. So I'll go with him.
NFL football, though, you have a lot of busts from college jumps there. You have Jamarcus Russell. You've got just countless others that have going to save a team and just haven't done anything, really.
So kind of along those lines, are there any players that you foresee being a bust, like maybe a NFL or NBA rookie now, or someone that's about to get drafted? Because I have one, if y'all would like for me to start. I don't think much of Matt Barkley out of USC.
That's what I was going to say.
He's really blonde. He looks like sunshine, and I don't think much of him. I don't think he's that good. USC was preseason #1, supposed to be headed towards the national championship against Alabama, and I think they went 7-5, maybe. I mean, their defense is dreadful. Matt Barkley's not the reason they are 7-5. Don't get me wrong, but I've watched them play a few times, and I wasn't impressed with them. Not like I was with, say, Andrew Luck or Robert Griffin III or anyone really. So that's fine.
The thing about those USC quarterbacks is that a lot of them end up being busts. Like, for example, Matt Leinart is because they have so much talent around them. They really look good throwing the ball to the best receivers or, handing the ball off to a great running back. They don't really have to do a lot that's exceptional. I mean, the better quarterbacks, come from the schools like Michigan, where it's, quarterback dependent, like Tom Brady or somebody like that.
Totally agree. Nick, what do you think?
I was going to say I'll switch it up on sports here, but the bust for sure I would say is going to be Mike Trout. I'm just kidding with you, Potter, but someone that
Mike Trout will be a Hall of Famer.
Someone that will be a big bust, if they still talk about him like they've been, is Andy Murray out of Georgia. He's not going to do anything in the pros. If he gets drafted,
Aaron Murray?
That's the guy.
Andy Murray.
He's a tennis player.
Andy Murray is a tennis player.
He's not bad.
He's probably not good either, though.
No, he's pretty good. He can swing that racket and hit that little orb to the other side of the. I don't know how tennis works.
Clearly, I'll give you another one. I think Andre Drummond. He's I guess he's a rookie. No.
Yeah, he is.
No, I think he's in his second year. Anyway,
rookie.
I think he's gonna suck. I don't think he was worth a damn at UConn, and I don't think it's going to be any better whenever he plays against real talent. Wilson, I didn't get one from you. What about you, friend?
That's because I have a whole lot. And first thing, I will say he's not a rookie, and I've already touched on it. But Tim Tebow is going to be the biggest bust in NFL history.
Wow.
Well, nobody expected him to be good out of college. All the scouts said that he was going to be bad because he had a terrible throwing motion.
Well, you ask SportsCenter what they think about Tim Tebow, and they'll show you a 24-hour-long marathon about him.
They have to conform to the narrative. They want people to watch, so that's what they talk about.
I got another one, though. I ask you, this season, what has Don Terry Poe done to the Kansas City Chiefs?
Who?
Exactly. Don Terry Poe was the 11th overall draft from the University of Memphis. Was a big nose tackle and defensive tackle. Everybody talked about how he's going to be a great fit and how Kansas City really needs him and everything. And what have we heard out of him at all this season?
Can we talk about how random of a pick that was? How random. Like,
I don't even know.
Say something. All right, so I think I'm going to catch you guys off guard a little bit. I think that our good friend Mr. Terrence Jones is going to be a bust, and also perhaps Marcus Teague. I don't think they're going to do much in the pros. I see them going more along the lines of Daniel Orton, DeAndre Liggins from Kentucky rather than Anthony Davis, Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, anyone like that. So there's my shot at Kentucky, and that's all you're going to get.
Another college star who's going to be an NBA bust, I think, is going to be Austin Rivers. And I'm not just saying that because I absolutely, totally, and completely hate everything he stands for, but because Austin Rivers he wasn't that stellar. Yeah, he was cool at Duke, but being cool at Duke is like, having something that I can't say on the podcast. Anyways, Austin Rivers being a great guy at Duke is one thing, but making that jump to the NBA while you already have the pressure of your dad being a great NBA coach, I don't see him being an all-star in the NBA like everybody is hoping for.
I agree with that. I think the expectations of him are a little bit lower than you kind of lead on, but I don't think he's going to be great. I don't think this draft class is going to be that great, to be honest. It was really top-heavy. I think Bradley Beal and the Kentucky guys are going to be really good. But outside of that, I think everyone else has a future in the D-League, man. Just a bunch of role players. There wasn't a whole lot of superstars, and there probably won't be this year either. I mean, the number one pick is probably going to be Cody Zeller, and I'll go ahead and tell you, he's probably going to be a bust. Future bust.
Future bust, I agree.
Yeah. He's another one of those players that's kind of undersized for being a center and doesn't really have the skills to be a power forward, so...
Tyler Zeller is another one. His big bro, I think he's going to be along the lines of Tyler Hansbrough, probably not as good, though.
Yep.
Tyler
Hansbrough is perfect.
But, I mean, he has a role position. I mean, not one that's like an all-time college North Carolina great, but he has a role position with Indiana, and I mean, he has his own place in the league, and that's fine. Nick Collison's the same way, but Tyler Zeller, his skill set doesn't really translate to the pros very well. Being a tall, skinny white dude isn't what you really look for in the pros.
Well, we could probably talk about this all day, just talking about which ones are a bust and everything. You got to look at Johnny Flynn. Everybody loved Johnny Flynn after that Syracuse team, and he hasn't done anything in the NBA. He's gone off and died in a small market team. So we could talk about this all day. It's just there's a lot of college athletes who come out with great expectations and all this hype, and a lot of them fail more times than not.
O.J. Mayo's another big one. Expectations tempered. I mean, he was supposed to be an all-star. And granted, he's a very good NBA player, but I mean, he hasn't made an all-star game or anything like that. He's not. Expectations are everything with these guys.
Plus, he's messing with my boy D-Cuz, and we can't have that.
I mean, DeMarcus may or may not have hit him in the joint, but I mean, well, we won't get into that.
He shall not be named was a pretty big NBA bust.
Who's that?
Christian Laettner.
Christian Laettner.
I thought he was talking about Voldemort, and I didn't know that he could play basketball at all.
Voldemort would be a pretty bad bust in the NBA, but I don't know anyone other than the Wizards that would take him in the first round. Oh! Yeah, he did.
Perfect.
I hope that gets cut out.
Yes, he did. Don't you dare edit that out. Keep it going, boys. Keep going.
All right, so professional athlete busts aside, we can go back to one of our former articles. A couple weeks ago, all four of us picked a college football team that we thought would be a potential for a great college football job. And as we go on, the dominoes are falling around the coaching carousel in the NCAA. All of our four teams have actually signed coaches. Cal signed Sonny Dykes, and NC State hired Dave Doran. Tennessee, of course, hired Butch Jones, and Colorado hired Mike McIntyre. So
none of us were right.
Right.
I was kind of right, but
wait a second. You said that Auburn was going to hire Kirby Smart, and you even got on the Twitter machine and said I called that, and then they didn't hire Kirby Smart.
Well, there's that. But my article was about Colorado, and I did say Mike McIntyre was a possibility.
Well, then
Mike McIntyre was a possibility for any job. He would have taken anything that was a higher station than San Jose State.
Was he in? Yeah. Right.
But I was shocked whenever Cal hired Sonny Dykes instead of Mike McIntyre. That was very surprising to me.
Yeah, that was a surprising hire. Butch Jones for Tennessee was also a surprising hire.
that was a settle. They might as well have just kept their old coach because Derek Dooley beat Butch Jones whenever he was at Tennessee and Butch Jones was at Cincinnati.
This was
they
being
had
in all
Charlie,
this,
man, but I guess they didn't.
yeah, being involved in this stuff, I was kind of paying attention to the coaching carousel a lot more than I normally would, and I was fascinated by it all. Really. Charlie Strong not leaving Louisville surprised the hell out of me. I'm pretty sure you guys all agree. I think we all thought he was going to Arkansas or taking an SEC job, but I mean, the guy got paid, so you can't blame him. But a lot of the coaching stuff happens, but I mean, it really is just anyone. There was a list of about 20 guys for the Kentucky job, and we went with one that no one had ever mentioned, really.
Yep, completely went off the board.
They mentioned him, but I mean, he was off the radar, and now a lot of people are jumping on the bandwagon, and I hope it works out, but, you know, people saying they wanted him the whole time is full of crap. 50% wanted Petrino, and the other half wanted some other random Joe Blow. A lot wanted Sonny Dyke, so on and so forth. But speaking of Bobby Petrino, Wilson?
Well, yeah, Bobby Petrino goes to Western Kentucky University. Bobby Petrino gets mentioned for all these SEC jobs. He gets mentioned for all these high-tier jobs. And at the same time, he took a job at Western Kentucky University replacing Willie Taggart. That's got to say something about not only did, you know, Kentucky football fans who were crying for him, not only did Kentucky not want him, but there were multiple colleges who did not want Bobby Petrino, so he ended up at Western Kentucky. What do you all think about that?
Great hire for them. I mean, a lot of the people wanted to stray away from Bobby Petrino because nobody wants to be the first school a guy goes to after the controversy. Like, in a couple of years, he will get a much higher profile job because Western's not a bad program, really. I mean, they beat the crap out of us. But, well, not really beat the crap.
That doesn't make him a good program, though.
But, I mean, he's going to get a much higher profile job if he goes, 8-4 with Western or makes a bowl game consistent.
Well, his buyout is huge in that contract.
Right, the expectations are obviously tempered always. I mean, it's Western. So people are going to be less hesitant to take him after he's strayed away from the controversy for a while. What do you guys think?
I think Western Kentucky is probably where he starts to rebuild his name. You know, this whole entire football season, while everyone's been focused on the games and everything, and he's kind of got to hide away from it, but when the coaching carousel started back up, his name was drug through the mud. And, a lot of places stayed away from him. And I think, this is where he goes to get that back, get back to the tier and the level where he was at some point.
Well, he can't take this job and then leave after a couple of years, or it'll show that he didn't learn anything from his career. If he takes a job at, Purdue next year, or Arkansas hired him back or something, what recruit's going to want to come play for him? One, he doesn't have any character at all, and he's shown that he'll leave at the drop of a hat for, just a dime more.
He is a huge prick. But
Yep.
that's kind of along the lines of what I was wanting to hit on, like the concept of moving up in the coaching ranks. Like Wilson hinted at Willie Taggart leaving for Western for South Florida. Like, how much of a step up is that? I mean, they're in the sinking ship that is the Big East, and Western. Last time I checked, they made a bowl game, and I don't know if USF did or not, but.
South Florida has more money behind it than Western does. So
they're also in Florida. I mean, that's a bad example, but that's a good transition. So, like, what do you see the coaching ranks as? Like, what's the top and what's the bottom?
Well, clearly the SEC job, not to sound like a homer, but clearly an SEC job or even a Pac-12 job is going to be the higher level of college football coaching. That's just the way it is in that system right now.
If your SEC teams, then you have like your Oklahoma, Texas, USC's, and then like that's one tier, and then everything else.
I will say this about the Willie Taggart move. He is from Bradenton, which the University of South Florida is located, Panhandle. It's not South Florida for you geography majors out there. It's Central Florida. But to me, that seems like it's a lateral move. You know, you go from Western, which could or could not be a program on the rise. It's never going to be a top-tier program in the state, but it's a program on the rise, and you go to USF, which, like Hobbs said, is dying in the Big East. So I don't know if Willie Taggart really maybe made such a great move with that job.
I'm not sure how big of a step up is I guess what I'm saying. Like, granted, you do have the pipeline of Florida now, so that is obviously a huge asset. But I mean, granted, the Sun Belt is a sunken ship rather than a sinking ship. But I mean, it's not that great of a step up for Willie Taggart, I don't think. Like, I don't know if he should have jumped at the gun to rebuild South Florida whenever he already had a middle-of-the-road Western team that made a bowl game, and if he consistently kept them in a bowl game, then he could get a much better job than UCF, I think.
There are a couple of guys who did make some great step-ups in this go-around at the carousel, though. First of all, Dave Doran goes from Northern Illinois to NC State. That's a great move for him. Oh, and then, again, we have Mike McIntyre, who went to Colorado, also a great move. And, of course, Tommy Tuberville going to Cincinnati. That's a great hire for Cincy. Bringing Tuberville to Cincinnati is a great. I'm totally 100% behind that.
I have to disagree with you. I hate Tommy Tuberville. He's such a prick. Did you read the story about where he was, whenever he got the call from Cincinnati, he was at dinner with 3 recruits? He was recruiting 3 players to go to Texas Tech, gets a call, and just leaves. And he never came back for the recruits. They just left him at dinner.
Wow. What did you guys think about Arkansas hiring Brett Bielema away from Wisconsin? That kind of seems like a step down to me.
You know, that's something I wanted to touch on next was that hire, because he comes out and he complains about Urban Meyer taking away all of his recruits at Wisconsin. What's he going to do in the SEC where that's, you know, where Urban Meyer came from? That's the typical norm.
Yeah, I don't really understand it. I mean, you have to think it's money driven. It was a money driven decision. I guess they threw paper at him. But I mean, I don't see why he wasn't content at Wisconsin. Like, Wisconsin's a good enough program. If they go undefeated, they'll be in the national championship. They're in the Big Ten. I mean, they looked into a Rose Bowl, fine, but I mean, they had Russell Wilson.
They go to major bowl games all the time, or at least they did under Brett Bielema. And before that, the coach that they had that's actually going to coach them in the bowl game, Barry Alvarez, took them to the Rose Bowl like 4 or 5 times in the 90s. So that's a good program. That's a solid program that can win and can recruit. Arkansas has a pretty tough time competing in the SEC. They'll be good once every 3-4 years.
Yeah, great move by Arkansas, I think, but questionable by Bielema, whatever his name is.
Bielema.
Nick, go ahead.
I didn't have anything to say. I was just agreeing with you, whatever his
Well, I agree with you guys. First of all, like you all said, Wisconsin's a great program. It's a great school, and I'll be interested to see who they hire afterwards. Barry Alvarez is going to coach for their bowl game, and, he used to coach for them, so he's the AD now, so I don't really see that happening. But that's a big job that's open now. And
Barry Alvarez actually said that he was definitely not going to do that.
Okay. All right. Well, then there you go. We have a big spot open in college football. And the other thing, Bielema has to think about this. Wisconsin football, yes, it's a great program, but the pressure of the SEC and the pressure of Arkansas, they want to be a top team in the SEC. They want to compete for that SEC title every year.
And the Big Ten is not a huge step down from the SEC. I mean, yes, I think I agree with all you guys that the SEC is obviously the pinnacle of college football, but the Big Ten's probably second. I mean, Ohio State, Michigan, and Wisconsin, they're a good program. And if Penn State stops with the Jerry Sandusky stuff, the Big Ten is great. I put them over the Pac-12 and the Big 12 most likely.
Well, another question.
I don't know. The Big 12 has a lot of good teams in it, though.
The what? The Pac-12? They're Oh, the Big 12? You mean Texas and Oklahoma? I mean on a
Texas,
historical.
Kansas State, but I'm more interested to see who you guys think they might hire at Wisconsin.
I have no idea.
I really have no idea who you go after, but I guarantee you it will be a big name.
I could see Wisconsin going to the NFL.
Of course, Chris Peterson of Boise State's always going to come up. Maybe Al Golden at Miami, or Bob Diaco, Notre Dame's defensive coordinator, has been doing a really good job. If they go to the NFL, I don't really know. Maybe Mel Tucker, who's the assistant head coach coordinator for the Jaguars.
Rex Ryan's going to be looking for a job.
You ready for this?
I don't think Barry Alvarez would hire Rex Ryan.
Probably
Don't see
not.
their
Mostly it's
working together.
Here we go. Ready? Wisconsin is going to hire Kirby Smart.
false. Kirby Smart's not leaving the SEC, man. He probably isn't going to leave Alabama.
I was just making a joke because I say everybody's going to hire Kirby Smart. The other thing you got to wonder is, where is Gene Chizik going to go next? What's next for Gene Chizik?
Offensive, defensive coordinator, I don't know. Coordinator position somewhere.
He's going to play a lot of golf.
Could do that. I don't know. I don't know where Gene Chizik goes. Unfortunately, the carousel is starting to slow down a little bit. A lot of the big jobs are full, other than what we talked about with Wisconsin. But it's all going to start right back up once the NFL starts, man. Or once the NFL ends, I'm sorry. Do you think any college coaches take anybody from... Any college teams take anybody from the NFL? Like we saw a big move from the Buccaneers took Greg Schiano, which caught everybody off guard.
I think we will definitely see another shift in college coaching after the NFL. I see at least one college football coach going to the NFL after the NFL season is over. And that will be a big coach, and that will be another big job that's open. So Wisconsin does have the luxury of being able to go and grab somebody now before this next job opens up.
I thought about it, like the Raiders go through coaches like they've had more coaches than wins, it feels like. So you have to think the Raiders suck something. They got to get rid of Carson Palmer, and they got to get a new coach, another one. And I thought about the Chiefs, but I mean, after what Romeo Crennel went through, do you think they can fire him? I mean, he might resign. I mean, that's one of the saddest stories I've heard in sports in a while. Like, do you think they can fire him after that?
Well, there's going to be a couple of NFL coaching jobs open, I believe, after the season. I think we're going to see the Chargers looking for a new coach.
Amen.
The Jets will be looking for a new coach. Philly will probably be looking for a new coach. There will be at least 3 or 4 open jobs, and the coach that I have in my mind that will be leaving the college ranks to jump to the NFL would fit in a couple of those open places.
Who's that?
Well, ladies and gentlemen of the listening...
The grand gesture. Here comes Wilson's grand gesture. Go on.
He makes so many of them.
Just say what you think, sir.
Yeah, just come out with it, man. You don't have to, build it up.
The NFL will be hiring, one NFL team will be hiring Chip Kelly away from Oregon this year.
I don't dislike that.
There's a lot of interest that I've heard from NFL sources, NFL reporters, and things like that. A lot of teams are interested in Chip Kelly's system, the blur offense. They want to see if that'll work in the NFL, and here's what I think. I think
you go at quarterback. Take him to the Jets.
You have to have a mobile quarterback, but you also have to have at least one decent wide receiver in that system, and a decent running back in that system. But also, you need to have a line that will be willing to go downfield and block for you. So I think the Chargers are automatically out of that. Phillip Rivers is done basically, and their offensive line doesn't really like to run downfield and block. You look at all of their games this season, their offensive line is so incredibly lazy. I think good fits for Chip Kelly in the NFL would be Philadelphia, of course, with Vic and all of their weapons that they have on offense. You just got to work with the line there. The best fit in the NFL for Chip Kelly would be the Carolina Panthers.
Oh, that's a pretty good one, too.
Let me go back to what you said about the Chargers, though. Their offensive line isn't lazy. You can't brand a whole unit of a team lazy just because that their particular blocking scheme doesn't have them pulling and going downfield to block. Most of what they're doing is pass blocking.
There's only one offensive line in the NFL that's lazy, and that's the Dallas Cowboys. They're so lazy they jump false start every time so that they can get a head start. But I like the Chip Kelly to NFL motion, but I would like him with the Jets.
I think because
Sir Tebow taking the snaps.
I think he doesn't necessarily. He might get the job at the Jets, and that might be a good fit for him. But like I said, the best fit's going to be Carolina. You have a great wide receiver down there. You have two pretty good running backs, and you have an outstanding quarterback who is yet to prove himself. But
they just hired that coach.
They just hired that coach, but if you could get Chip Kelly and you could bring his system to the NFL and you could make it work, they go from being the bottom of their division to making that division stacked. Could you imagine if Chip Kelly goes to Carolina? That division is going to be outstanding.
They're not going to let their coach go that soon, man. He's at least going to get a couple more years.
I do like the concept of him going to the Panthers. I just don't think it's going to happen.
It's definitely not going to happen.
I mean, they had John Fox last year, and he left for the Broncos. I don't think that's going to happen. But it would work well with Cam Newton because, I mean, the Chip Kelly's used to having the agile quarterback that can also throw it, like Cam Newton, that he has, like Darren Thomas, I think is his name, right? Maybe?
Right.
Darren Thomas, the quarterback of Oregon. Whatever. That guy. So, I like the mold of the Chip Kelly system in the NFL. I would like it. I'm not sure how successful it would be, but it's intriguing.
I think the defenses are equally as fast as the players that Oregon has right now. So the success of that offense is because they have athletes on that side of the ball that are so much faster than what the defenses in the Pac-12 are, and it really relies on that speed advantage. Defenses in the NFL are a lot faster than the college defenses. I don't know if it would really work that well.
Yeah, I would have to say that Potter made a great point right there. There's the NFL defenses as a whole. They get to pick from the best of the best, and that certainly leads to them having much higher speeds.
I think Chip Kelly going to the NFL would be an attractive hire for the Panthers. To not at the risk of sounding weird, it would kind of be sort of like the Eagles. People would flock to the Panthers to play with Cam Newton and then in Chip Kelly's system, in my opinion.
By the way, guys, this is actually Ron Rivera's second season as the head coach of the Carolina Panthers. He had a losing record last season, and right now the Panthers are 2-8. So I don't think it's necessarily out of question that he gets fired or they have a new coach next season.
And get Chip Kelly in, because I like that. If the Jets doesn't work out.
I think the other thing about Chip Kelly to the NFL, it'll look a lot like Nick Saban. If he gets to the NFL and it doesn't work out for him, he's already proved himself in the college system. They're going to go ahead and another college will pick him up right away.
Real quick, who do you think he would rather go to if both jobs were offered, the Jets or the Panthers?
Jets.
The Panthers.
Wilson?
Yep.
I think the Panthers. You have a potential Hall of Fame quarterback in Cam Newton.
Oh, not so fast, my friend. Let's not get ahead of ourselves here.
Whoa, with the Hall of Fame. Nick, why'd you say the Jets?
The brakes.
I would just say go to New York in general. They could maybe build around some pieces that he'd like to, maneuver about. And he'd have more control there. Theoretically, I'm not sure how they would, how the deal would be set up, but
Yes, that's what that was kind of what I'm saying. I think it would be more successful to go to the Panthers, his system with working with Cam Newton, but at the same time, it kind of goes back to the mainstream of the whole thing. It's New York. In the national spotlight, you play for the Jets, you coach the Jets, and New York is the driving factor in the whole thing. Potter?
I think that I really don't think that he would want to go to New York because they don't have the pieces in place necessary for him to run his offense right now. you got to look at the Panthers already have Cam Newton, and they already have Jonathan Stewart and D'Angelo Williams. It's a 2-back set, so give them a lot more chance to be successful.
Like 5 and whatever. The Panthers are 2-8. They're all.
But it doesn't have the necessary quarterback to run it there. Tim Tebow can't throw the ball, so I don't know what he would do with him. Just run it off tackle every play.
He wins.
I'm right with Potter, and I would even go as far to say that Philly would be a better system to put Chip Kelly in than New York.
But Vic's not going to be there next year.
Well, I mean, maybe Michael Vick will be there next year if they say, Michael, we're bringing in Chip Kelly, and he runs a system that's based around a quarterback that can throw a ball and run them.
Yeah, but what's going to happen when Michael Vick gets hurt in the second preseason game because he's running so much?
False!
I think they're parting ways with Michael Vick, man. I think I would love to see him go to Arizona to save Larry Fitzgerald, because I love Larry Fitzgerald. I think he's a great receiver, Hall of Fame potential, but he's just never had a quarterback. You saw what he did whenever he had Kurt Warner, and then what he did whenever he had Matt Leinart and John Skelton and Kevin Kolb and Ryan Lindley and all those other bums.
We just got to wait and see. I think the interesting thing about it is that Chip Kelly may get more than one offer from NFL teams at the end of this season. In writing my article about Chip Kelly and him leaving Oregon for the NFL, I've been out to multiple NFL teams. Of course, I got a whole bunch of no comments at this time and everything like that. Got a couple of, just hang-ups right on the spot. But everything that I've looked into and researched about this is he is not just like a certain team's favorite, but a lot of owners in the NFL sit around and talk about how they want to implement his system into the NFL. All right, so we talked about a lot of things in the podcast. We're going to talk about one more thing, and I think it's just appropriate when we're talking about busts. Potter, you are our resident boxing expert, and there's no way we could miss the moment in boxing history that was Manny Pacquiao laying face down, taking a nap. What exactly did you think about that whole fight, Potter?
I mean, he's got to win the planking championship for this year after that display. But I actually thought that was pretty fitting. Marquez had really bulked up. He had put on about 15 pounds from the weigh-in the day before, just by rehydrating and eating a little bit. So he bulked up. He looked a lot bigger than he did in their last couple of fights. His shoulders were just huge. So some people are saying it might be steroids, but who really knows? The drug test came back negative. I had the fight at the time that he got knocked out at 47-46 for Manny Pacquiao. But I really thought that Marquez was going to come back and turn it around. And it seemed like he was about to do that. In the last two fights, Manny Pacquiao obviously got the decision in both of those, but I didn't think that he deserved it. The last fight, I think I had Marquez winning like 119-109 or something like that, and Pacquiao ended up getting it on the judges' cards. That's the problem with boxing lately, is that the judges are just so inconsistent. But actually, all the judges had it 47-46 at the time he got knocked out, too. And if you can find a picture of it, Mitt Romney was sitting ringside, and whenever Pacquiao got knocked out, his face was priceless. So please go Google that.
The pictures that are circling the web of Pacquiao laying unconscious, going night-night, are priceless. I love it. It's hilarious. But
there was also some.
End of Pacquiao, Potter?
Do what?
Is this the end of Pacquiao? Like, I don't think we're ever going to see the money Pacquiao fight.
I don't think that he'll fight again. I really don't. It doesn't seem worth it to him at this point, because he's never going to get the fight with Mayweather now. It's just not going to happen.
So obviously you don't think there's going to be another Pacquiao Marquez fight either, then?
I don't know. Marquez is 39 at this point, and I don't know if he'd really be up to training that extensively again. Right. Pacquiao is also like 34. I mean, yeah, he might just go back to the Philippines and just be a congressman.
And a singer.
Yep, it's hard to say. Also, there's a priceless video of the knockout where you see there's this guy sitting ringside, and it's just an old white guy, and he has his hands, and he's like doesn't know what to do with them. Like trying to catch Pacquiao's head, and then he pulls him back. It's hilarious. You really need to see it.
I do kind of feel bad. I really like the old school boxing, but now I kind of only catch the highly publicized one. I'll admit it. But yeah, I think I tend to agree with you. I think Pacquiao might be done. If he does fight again, I think it will be against Marquez because he's got to be embarrassed. I mean, that was bad. Like, he was on the attack and then he was night. He was out cold and he wasn't getting up.
Well, there was 1 second left in the round when he got knocked out too. That round had been, pretty close. I was about to score it for Pacquiao. I score on a website called FightJudge.com. Next time you watch a fight, go check it out. They'll definitely be in there scoring it. But I really thought that Pacquiao was about to knock Marquez out at that point in the round, and then all of a sudden, Pacquiao missed with a punch. Marquez stepped to the side and just lit him up.
Yeah.
A one-punch knockout's incredibly uncommon in boxing.
Watching his skull just vibrate, it's pretty cool. Like, boxing, whenever it's on, and it's really fun to watch. People aren't into it as much as they should be.
You don't really see knockouts like that very often. Usually it's an accumulation of punishment, not just one punch.
Which is why it's so highly publicized and such a big deal now.
That'll be the knockout of the year.
Wilson, Nick?
I agree with Potter. It'll be the knockout of the year. And if that wasn't the knockout of the year, what everybody was saying on Twitter and going in on Manny Pacquiao on Twitter, that also could beat the knockout of the year. That's how I found out. I was on Twitter afterwards and just saw thousands of pictures of Manny Pacquiao and different things happening to him while he lays face down.
My favorite one, what Diddy tweeted. Diddy tweeted a picture of Anthony Davis, and then his unibrow is Manny Pacquiao laying unconscious on the mat.
I saw one the other day where Manny Pacquiao is laying in the middle of a path in a Pokemon game, and it says, "A wild Manny Pacquiao is sleeping."
I saw that.
Okay, that's the best one.
There's another one where they Photoshop Pacquiao laying in a race car bed face down, and it's hilarious.
Oh, man. Real quick, who do you think would win in a fight in their prime, Manny Pacquiao or Money?
Mayweather's such a great technical boxer that he would neutralize the kind of rampaging forward style of Manny Pacquiao. Mayweather would honestly, I think, make him look silly just with the head movement and that little Philly shell style where he rolls his shoulder up to block punches. I think that Mayweather, he wouldn't knock him out. Mayweather doesn't fight like that, but he would definitely win on points.
Right, Nick.
I think Mayweather's got him as well. For all the reasons he said, and just Mayweather without power. I mean, Pacquiao, I believe, has been a little overrated anyway, and maybe this past fight has been a test of that, but neither of them are touching Cassius, so that's okay.
Well, Mayweather wouldn't outpower him. Mayweather's not really that type of fighter. Manny Pacquiao's that rampaging forward type of fighter where he can knock you out. Mayweather's more just, he'll make you look silly, and the rounds will all be definitely for Mayweather because he just, he dances around, he'll taunt you, he'll hit you with a stiff jab, then come through with that straight right. He's a great fighter.
I think Money's fighting style matches up better against Pacquiao than vice versa. I think Mayweather would win the vast majority of the rounds, just by points. I mean, obviously they'd go the distance. Neither one of them would hit the floor, but they'd go the distance, and it would be Money all the way. I think. Wilson.
I think what would happen is they would go and they'd hype out this fight for forever, and then they'd finally get into the ring, and then right when they both land a punch, it freeze frames, and we never know who wins.
I like the Rocky, huh? I like the Skip Bayless has been ranting about it for forever, and he's on board on the main Pacquiao, and I don't see it. But I mean, unfortunately, like Potter said, we'll probably never get to see it, and it's a shame because both of them are talking mad smack about each other, saying that neither one of them wanted to fight each other. So,
well, I think it's just from now on, we'll see it in our dreams, just like Manny Pacquiao did when he laid on the floor.
Yeah.
All right, well, so this will about do us here for the 4FanSports podcast. A couple of things we wanted to get out of the way. First of all, we just want to apologize for our lack of articles over the past couple of days. It is a busy time during the holidays and finals and everything like that, but we just want to thank you all for sticking with us and keep on checking the website, because from here on out, we're going to be able to deliver you that analysis and humor that you've come so much to love right now. Also, we want to make an announcement, in case you haven't heard of it yet. We are doing the first ever 4FanSports writing contest, so you can submit anything you want to about sports to be featured on 4FanSports.com. Keep it under 1,000 words, and you'll email it to our email, which is 4fansports@mail.com. So go ahead and just mail us your articles, and you could even stand a chance of being a contributor for 4fansports.com. So for 4fansports.com, Mr. Tyler Hobbs, Ryan Potter, and Nick Rapier, I'm Josh Wilson. Thank you again for listening, and keep moving forward.
Put it in reverse.